Hey guys, and welcome to my first POE2 class guide on this channel. I know that many people are currently struggling with the campaign and the different bosses and the overall game difficulty. So I thought it's time to make a beginner guide for the Ranger class. This is the class that I have chosen to make my first playthrough in this early access. So yeah, I'm not a pro whatsoever, but I'm still learning a lot and I want to share my knowledge in the future with you guys. So if you're interested in this content, then you can subscribe to this channel and not miss any further guides in the future. But now let's go back to the Lightning Ranger. So in fact, I'm not only dealing lightning elemental damage, but also physical damage and poison damage. So I think in this game it's a good idea to combine as many different skills as possible in order to get the most efficient game flow. So each skill kinda has its own purpose and job to do. And yeah, this is kind of the philosophy here, but our main skills that we use 80% of the time, especially for AOE damage, are lightning skills. So for me this is still a Lightning Ranger. And yeah, let's talk about the skill rotation for a bit. So I'm usually using 3 different lightning skills here. So the most important one is the lightning rod. So you can see here I have this blue, shiny blue lightning arrows that are sticking to the ground. So lightning rod is a skill that first shoots lightning arrows into the air and then they will land and stick to the ground. And then they can explode again once you have chained them with some additional lightning projectiles, like from the lightning arrow. So lightning arrow causes these lightning beams to chain with enemies, but also they can chain with the lightning rods, so the arrows in the ground. And this will trigger them to explode again for massive AOE damage. So this is like the first skill synergy, the first combination that you can use in order to get the most effective AOE damage. And it works pretty early on in the game, so these are level 1 skills that you get pretty early on. And they are kind of effective until like in the whole playthrough of Act 1 to 3. And then since I'm a Pathfinder, so this is the ascendancy I've chosen, I have not chosen the Deadeye path, but instead I'm a Pathfinder. So I also have access to another lightning damage concoction. And this concoction even lowers the elemental and lightning resistance of the enemies even further. So I can also show you in game. Here it's called Fulminating Concoction, so I can throw this type of grenade skill here to the enemies. And this will lower the lightning resistance, so I will deal effectively more damage to the enemies. More lightning damage. So yeah, also very helpful if you also go with the Pathfinder Ascendancy as I do. So these are my typical 3 skills. First I lay down my lightning rods. And then I can trigger them with my lightning arrow, as you can see here. Every time I chain these lightning beams, this will trigger all of the lightning rods and they will explode again for AOE damage. So lightning rod and lightning arrow is the typical combination. And as I mentioned, you can throw in also this fulminating concoction to deal even more damage if needed. And what I also like to do is to use barrage. So barrage will double the amount of projectiles of my next skill. So this is actually what I also like to do every time I don't fight. I activate my barrage, so if I expect some enemies to appear in the next corner, then I have my barrage ready, and instead of 4 lightning rod projectiles, I will shoot 8, because it will double this amount. I'm not sure why this did not work. I can do it again. Okay, now you can see I have 8 arrows at once, so this will also help you to just fasten up this process. So the rotation always looks like this: barrage first, then when you see some enemies you throw down your lightning rods and then you trigger them with your lightning arrow, and if needed you throw in your fulminating concoction. So this is the rotation for AOE damage, but versus bosses and single targets this looks completely different actually. So, as you maybe already saw, I have the bow shot here equipped in my inventory or skill inventory. So yes, I'm still playing with bow shot, and bow shot is like the basic attack of bow weapons. So this is the first skill you start the game with. This is not an actual skill, it's just a regular bow attack. But I find it to be very powerful, especially versus single targets like bosses. So you can see I have a DPS of 900 here, and this is way higher than, for example, my lightning arrow or my lightning rods here. So I really like to play with bow shots, and I think it's a mistake to drop them during the campaign playthrough. So during boss fights, what I usually do, I start the fight with a Stormcaller arrow. So you can also look it up here. Stormcaller arrow is a skill, and here we just shoot some lightning projectiles, so some lightning arrows. And once they have reached their enemy or target and they explode, then they will explode in this bolt, which deals some damage and also has an 800% more chance to shock. So I'm using this skill mainly because I want to apply shock on enemies, because shock will make the enemies be applied with an ailment, which will increase my damage in my passive skill tree, but also more importantly, it will make the enemies take 20% increased damage overall. And I can also further increase this value here. So right now I have something more close to 40% increased damage, also because of some passive skill tree nodes. So this is just a huge multiplier. The game usually doesn't provide too many multipliers for your damage. So this is one of them, and it's very important to scale these if you have some of them available. So yeah, this is the reason for Stormcaller arrow. I just want to apply shock to the boss or a single target. So it will just take up to 40% more damage, in my case right now. And then after that, I usually follow up with Poison Burst arrows, so I apply poison to the enemy. And the reason why I do that is because I have this support gem called Corrosion. And poison applied by supported skills, so this poison arrow also breaks armor equal to some amount of the poison damage. And breaking armor is also very important when I want to deal as much physical damage as possible. And since my main DPS skill is Bowshot, as I mentioned, Bowshot is dealing a lot of physical damage. So you can see here I have up to 289 physical damage, also a lot of lightning damage, but still a big part of it is only physical damage. And in order to increase this physical damage, it is a good idea to break the armor with some corrosion or poison. So for that reason, again, I start a fight with Stormcaller arrow. I just want to apply shock as often as possible. So every 6 to 8 seconds, I will reapply shock with Stormcaller's arrow. And then my rotation looks like this. I just shoot one poison arrow, followed up by 2 to 3 physical arrows. Then again poison, again physical, again poison, again physical, okay? So poison holds like 2 seconds. And during these 2 seconds, it makes no sense to apply any further poison. So while the enemy is poisoned, I will shoot my physical bow shots. And yeah, this is like the entire rotation for the boss. So again, I do my Stormcaller's arrow, followed up by poison and physical. And for me, at least, this is the most effective way how I can deal single target DPS and kill the bosses in the most fast way. And of course, if the boss is staggered, cannot move, is immobilized, or is very slow in general, then you can of course also use your lightning rods, just as you do in the AOE damage rotation. So if you have staggered a boss or it can't move for any reason, you also can start with barrage, then lay down your lightning rods, throw your concoction, and also start shooting lightning arrows. But this will only work if the boss will stay in this area here. So only if the boss is within this area where you have your lightning rods, you will deal more damage than with the other rotation. But in my experience, this was not the case. This was not very often the case. So most of the times the bosses are very quick, they move all the time, and it's very difficult to have them holding one position where this kind of rotation will work. So I recommend to use my single target rotation for bosses in the most cases, but you can also of course use these lightning rods for certain situations. And now I want to go over all my support gems pretty quickly. So I have lightning infusion and martial tempo for my bow shot. So I prioritize the boss damage in this build. So you can see if I remove one of the support nodes, my DPS just significantly drops. So here I just have more lightning damage, and here I have more attack speed, so very good support gems for boosting my DPS with the skill. And since I'm prioritizing boss or single target DPS, they go to my bow shot. With my concoction, I just increase my area of effect, so here I have expanse and magnified effect. and Conduction also gives me more chance to shock enemies, which is one source of shocking AOE ailments. Then I have Lightning Arrow with Chain and Pierce. Pierce is not too important, but Chain is very important because you want to make sure that you chain as many light beams as possible from your Lightning Arrow, because this is what will trigger the lightning rods to explode. In the lightning rods we have Scatter Shot and Acceleration. So these are they are available very early on in the game, so all of these are level 1 support gems. So here it makes us shoot more additional projectiles. And here they also have 40% more projectile speed. So this is very good because we usually don't have too much time in the fight, so the enemies are very quick. So we quickly need to lay down our lightning rods and then immediately start shooting. So for that reason both of these support gems are very useful. I actually don't play with Ice Shot anymore. You can play, like, I can recommend to take the level 1 Ice Shot. I don't know how it's called right now exactly, but this is the one where you go into the air, you jump into the air and you freeze enemies in front of you. So in fact I can recommend this one. Here I just was experimenting a bit. Poison Burst Arrow with Corrosion, as I showed before. Stormcaller's Arrow, here I have Lasting Shock and Concentrated Effect, so just have some more increased shock duration. Barrage, here I have Premeditation, so supported skill deals more damage. And Second Wind, so I have 2 cooldowns, but skills have 50% less cooldown recovery rate. But the idea here is that if you stagger a boss, then you can use Barrage even 2 times in a row. So here you can lay down up to 16 lightning rods very quickly. So this is the idea. And one skill I have forgotten yet is Herald of Thunder. So this is like an automatic buff which uses your spirit. So here you just deal additional lightning damage after killing shocked enemies. So this can also increase your damage a bit in the usual playthrough, but yeah, not too important I would say. And now let's take a look at the passive skill tree. So as mentioned, I have the Pathfinder here instead of the Deadeye. So here we have access to this Fulminating Concoction. So again, very important in order to deal more damage. Another multiplicative damage source, which is kind of rare in this game. Later on I will also pick up this further passive skill tree nodes. And also I really like this Running Assault, so you have less movement speed penalty. This is very good because the boss fights are usually always like this. I try to dodge and move around and dodge the mechanics of the boss while shooting my arrows, so very good passive here. And also Relentless Pursuit I think will be very good. So I will take down all these nodes on the left, but I won't take any of these nodes here. Then here you want to go to Clean Shot and Vile Wounds as quick as possible. So here you will just have a bunch of increased projectile damage and damage to enemies affected by elemental ailments. You also want to go to Blur as quick as possible after that. So here you have increased movement speed, which is very important in this game since you're very slow. And after that I like to take Careful Aim and Heavy Ammunition for more projectile damage and some accuracy rating. But after that we just rush down here to this Surging Currents node. So here this is the first node which gives us penetrating lightning resistance. This is very important, so the enemies will take way more damage if you can penetrate their lightning resistance. So this is like another multiplicative damage source here in the game. So I would highly recommend you to take these nodes as early as possible. But then we actually rush down to this first Jewel socket. On the way we take Death from Afar, so here if you like to play also like a distant playstyle, you have to be further away from the enemy further than 6 meters, then you will have an increased critical strike hit and also more damage. So I really like this Ranger playstyle. Frazzled and Rattled will give us more effect of shock and also more duration. So here you have a bunch of nodes that increase the magnitude of shock. So this way, instead of 20% more damage, which is usually like the default damage debuff with shock, it will then be increased to nearly 40% as I mentioned, which is kinda heavy. So 40% multiplicative damage increase is very good. So I can also recommend to take these. Then I just needed some dexterity and intelligence nodes. That's why I took this path here. Later on you can also take this pierce the heart and all of this bow, speed and damage nodes. But after that I can type in lightning resistance. After that you actually want to go pretty deep into the west here. So let me check. Somewhere here there should be a note that says lightning resistance. Oh my gosh, resistance. I don't know what's wrong here. It should be somewhere here. But I have it also in the planner, by the way, guys. So you can check out the description or the comment section. There you will find the link to my mobalytics planner. And there you also have my skill tree. I think I found it. So here's the Flash Storm. So you have additional damage, penetrates lightning resistance. And also lightning rod is very cool, because here you have lightning damage that gets lucky. And the lucky effect means that your base damage will roll twice, and the better result will be used. So especially with lightning damage you have a very high range, so something like between 1 to 400 lightning damage, and then you will just increase your odds of having higher lightning damage values. So also very good passive node here. But yeah, this is my passive skills I have used so far. I'm level 40 by the way, so not too high. And now we can quickly talk about the items, so I can quickly go over all of my items here, or at least show you them, show the items very quickly here. So the thing with the items in the game is you cannot target farm anything specific. It's very difficult to get some good items, so my advice here is to visit the vendors and also gamble some items. The vendors usually have the best weapons that you will find in the game, because they don't drop too often. But especially for the bow, I can recommend you to take a dual string bow. This one will have your bow attacks fire additional arrows, so you can see I'm always shooting 2 arrows at the same time. This is because I have a dual string bow. And then you just try to get a bunch of physical and elemental damage. So you can see I have some physical and fire damage in my suffixes. I also have increased elemental damage. I have +1 level to projectile skills and some life leech on physical damage. So I would say this is all the good stuff that you want. Damage, life leech, increased damage, increased elemental, increased physical damage. And of course sockets with some runes. But yeah, the base damage is the most important one on your weapon. By the way, I have a video also where I explain how the basic damage scaling works in the game and how the damage calculation in general works. So if you're interested in that, I will also put down a link in the description. But yeah, this is how a weapon should look like, more or less. For defensive gear, I can recommend you to focus on maximum life, armor and resistances. Evasion is not too important in my opinion. So you just want resistances and life most of all, and also armor I think is also kind of helpful. It will just also decrease your physical, like the damage, the taken physical damage. It will decrease it further, so yeah, maximum life, armor and resistances. And on weapons and your rings and stuff like that, you want physical or elemental damage as mentioned before with the weapon. So yeah, I think this was it for the guide. So in the last minutes of this video, you will see a boss fight. So I will show you the boss fight in Act 2. This is actually the end boss in Act 2. So if you have not played it so far and you don't want to get spoiled, then you should not watch it. But if you want to see this build live in action, so if you want to see how I kill a boss with this build, then you should of course take a look here. But I would say that's enough for this video. From my side, I will play the video now, and yeah, I hope you liked it, and I hope I see you in next guides. Leave me a like and subscribe to this channel, would really support me. Thanks for watching, and bye bye.
Bow before your king.
Submit! You are finished!
The era of the Vanatun is now!
Suffer!
The Manacans will pay for my people! Search justice! We are the storm! Reprisal! The era of the Faradun is now!
We're running out of time. End this.
Go, my queen!
What are you doing?
I don't have time for this! Sand bends to my will! Impede my enemies! Forge of hate! Our gift to you! You will not win! We will blot out the sun! I will grind you into dust!
Suffocate.
Our gift to you! We will blot out the sun! The Marrakech will pay! Forge of hate! We will blot out the sun! Not fall! I will grind you into dust! The Marrakech will pay! Endless hate! Our gift to you! The Paladin is now! Endless hate! Die! Ulasekama!
Sala.
You have accomplished nothing.
This is not over. Not yet. Jamabra! I return you to the embrace of death! It is done.